Hey, you. Stop watching Tiger King and come hang out with us. Hello, and welcome to The Social Distance, a podcast where we can just hang out during this time of quarantine. It is April 9th, 2020, and I am your host, Israel Rodriguez. And thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I am Israel, but you can call me Izz. I've never really been a big fan, specifically, of 6-letter words with 3 syllables. It just doesn't rub me the right way, you know? Now, this isn't exactly the first episode of the podcast, but it is one of the first few. And aside from narcissistically enjoying my own voice, and of course talking to you guys, this podcast is made for my MCOM 119 class. So sometimes, rules and specs of the podcast will be changing, and I will be adapting to that sort of rubric. So just bear with me. We're going to tighten a few screws in these first couple of episodes and just get a good flow going for the rest of the season, for the rest of the episodes to come in the future. And who knows, if you're having as much fun with these episodes as I am, then, maybe something more will come out of these podcasts. Maybe we'll continue doing them even when the school semester is done, even when the social distancing is done. And when that happens, I might have to change the name of this podcast because it just might not be too relevant anymore to call it The Social Distance. Or who knows, I might keep it just to remind us of an odd time that we went through, that we got through. Now, if you tuned into last week's podcast, I gave an idea of how it's going to be going. I will be interviewing people, seeing how this distancing has affected them, and to see what they're up to and what they have been up to even before this social distancing. And if you did not listen to last week's podcast, how dare you? How dare you? No, I'm just kidding. In fact, this is actually going to be a good episode to start on. And like I said, we'll be tightening some screws as these episodes go on. So, I think we're going to have a good time. We will still have guests. We will still have fascinating stories. And you will be hearing a lot from me. For the most part, I will be releasing new episodes on Thursdays and on Fridays. So maybe think of this podcast as a nice little birthday candle on top of your 5-layer chocolate cake that is your week. On Thursdays, it will be just mostly me. I'll be giving you updates on not just myself, but on the COVID-19 crisis, and as well as what we're all kind of up to here at Griffin Radio. My classmates are also doing some cool things of their own as well, so go ahead and check that out if you got the time. And for the better part of a Thursday episode, we're just going to be hanging out. We're going to be talking about lots of things. We're going to be talking about movies, music, books, arts, animals, anything, ideas, stories. I'm going to try just to give it all to you. And you will be hearing a lot from me, but I definitely do encourage you to maybe go on the comment section and leave some stories of your own, leave some ideas of your own. And trust me, I would love to hear them. I would love to read them. I do miss human interaction as much as you probably do. And then for episodes on Friday is when I will be interviewing a new guest each week. And just to kind of see what they're up to, how they're dealing with all this, and just to kind of see the kind of people that they are. There's some interesting people out there, trust me. This will of course be done safely, either through the phone, through the internet. We'll make it work. And if you did want to take a gander at last week's episode, I did interview my 2 roommates, Memo and Arturo. Both very fascinating people. We got to kind of play some guitar with Arturo, and then we got to kind of hear about some paintings and some art projects with Memo. It was a good time, and I totally recommend it. We're going to have a fun time here. That's the name of the game. We're going to have a fun time, dudes. To touch on the coronavirus for just a little bit, we are still, as of this recording, recommended to stay indoors and to keep a distance from people as much as we can. If you do have to go out, it is recommended to wear a face mask of any sorts. You can definitely just grab some cloth. I personally use my bandanas. The bandana I use has a bunch of cool little watercolor-like flowers on it. I mean, hey, dude, I'm not trying to scare anybody with wearing the mask. This isn't the apocalypse. It's not. We're gonna get through this. It's just we gotta take some precautionary measures. So just make sure you got your Germex with you, and you're washing your hands a lot. 20 seconds, soap and water. I think they say happy birthday song twice. So, you know, that's easy. We can do that, right? I think this week and next week are actually supposed to be two very important weeks as far as kind of seeing the extent of this coronavirus and just the way we're handling it and seeing the way it's going to go. So, now more than ever, make sure we stay healthy, we stay safe, and let's flatten that curve is what they say. And by that they mean the infectious curve. Don't get infected. Don't infect other people. We're going to be cool. We're going to be good. And for those of you still out there in the workforce, I really appreciate you guys. You guys are doing an awesome thing, and I thank you for still being out there during this time of uncertainty. And for those who have personally been affected by the coronavirus, I'm sorry. This is a tough time, and my heart is with you. And I hope you guys get through whatever challenges you are facing. This is a learning experience for humanity, and I do think it's important that we're all just kind to each other, that we are all patient with each other during a time like this. In fact, I think it's important that we are kind and patient with each other all the time. But hopefully, a moment like this pushes us to get better at that. And now for the meat of today's show, for the carne of today's show, I actually wanted to take you guys on a journey with me. My journey, a musical journey, and I actually do have a special guest today. It's my bass. That's right, I got my bass plugged in right now, and you're going to be hearing a lot of it through today's show. I've been playing bass for a long time now, actually. I want to say about maybe 10 years, and it's something that I've put a lot of work into it, a lot of time, and it's taken me a lot of places. And these are some of the places I kind of wanted to show you. I wanted to give you a glimpse of kind of how I got into it, kind of how I fell in love with it. I love the bass. I think it's a fascinating instrument. It's just fun. It's groovy. You feel it. You're gonna... Oh yeah. You feel it, dudes. So yeah, I'll be telling you some stories, and I'll try to throw in as many cool bass licks as I can. It's going to be like an autobiography, an interactive autobiography. Maybe, something like that. We'll see how it goes. So my music journey kind of begins in the 5th grade. I signed up for marching band, and I chose the trumpet. I love the trumpet. The trumpet is a fun instrument. I think at the time, though, when I was in the 5th grade, I didn't really appreciate it too much. I don't even know if I appreciated music as much as I should have. I was younger, but I think I had heard, whoa, you signed up for band, and for like 30 minutes a day every Wednesday, you can get out of class and you go to band practice. And I thought, oh, cool, like I can get out of class. And I think all my friends too were joining band. My like 3 friends that I had in 5th grade, my 3 close friends that I had in 5th grade, they're like, yeah, we're going to join band. We're going to skip class. I was like, yeah, that's cool. That sounds really fun. And so I went and I picked the trumpet. It was a great instrument. It is a great instrument. I do wish I paid maybe a little bit more attention throughout the years with my trumpet playing, but I did pick it up in the 5th grade, and that's when I started playing music officially. I got the trumpet, and it was definitely a learning curve. I don't know how many of you listeners play trumpet, but when you first start off, it's a little bit awkward. Here, I'm not going to do it into the mic, but you got to kind of learn how to do this type of sound with your lips, and it's weird. You're kind of like blowing raspberries. And I think in the 5th grade, I was just like a little embarrassed by it, so I didn't really try as hard as I could have, as hard as I should have. But, I was playing trumpet, and I was learning. Don't get me wrong, I was learning all the songs we were playing all the fun, classic, cheesy songs that we had to learn. There was one, Banshee, that one I think came out in the new Joker movie, actually. The dun dun dun, there now, bow bow, bow bow bow, bow bow, Sorry, my mouth trumpet is a little out of tune. My bad. But anyways, it was a good introduction. I learned how to read music during that time, which is actually very important. That's a skill that I won't lie, I do need to brush up on. But in the 5th grade and up, I was learning to read music. Now, fast forward to the 8th grade, I was still playing trumpet. I got a lot better than I was in the 5th grade. I was still playing trumpet. I was in marching band. That was pretty fun too. I got to be in these parades. That was a that was a fun time. That's a whole nother story of its own. But in the 8th grade, I started getting into like rock music. I believe some of the Guitar Hero games were coming out around that time, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, we're all my friends were getting into that, and I wanted to be a rock star. I think everyone at some point wants to be a rock star. So 8th grade, I got my first guitar. I think I was at a talent show in the 8th grade, and I saw a kid who was this quiet dude. I wouldn't say he was my friend, but I knew him. I would say hi to him. Super quiet, shy guy, and in the talent show, he started playing guitar. He was playing a Slipknot song. And for those of you who listen to Slipknot, they're not a quiet band. And I was just so amazed. This guy was just rocking it on guitar. It was like, dun 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 dun. And I was fascinated. I thought to myself, I want to do stuff like that. And I pleaded for a guitar. Luckily, I had a lot of family members too that do play music, and they were so for the idea of me playing music. Like, yeah, and I had an uncle who gave me an amp that I was very grateful for. And then I had my first guitar. It was a black SG Epiphone guitar. For those of you who know the language and kind of want to have an idea of the first guitar I got. Wasn't the best guitar, but man, I felt awesome having it. And I was always trying to learn new songs. I think I would always have the distortion on too. I loved like the chunky da cha 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 cha, and that was fun. That was a good time. I was chasing that rock star lifestyle. Then come 9th grade, I had let my hair grow out. It needs to be this long, Mom. I'm fighting the system. I'm doing little devil horns. If you can't see it, but you can feel it, I'm sure. That was 9th grade. I was jamming with my buddy Jerry as well. He too had started playing guitar. And me and my friends were all just kind of getting into music. It was really cool looking back at that. But yeah, me and Jerry would jam out in my garage. We kind of had a band, and I used the word band very, very loosely here. And we called it Amongst the Blue Rays. And we would just jam out. And like I said, it was just me and Jerry playing music. It was a good time. But cut to the summer before the 10th grade, my step grandfather came down from LA, and I'm not too close to the guy, but he loved me, and he knew I was getting into music, and he came down and was like, "Mijo, my church is giving away or is getting rid of some old stuff, and we found this old bass guitar, in the church closet or whatever, and." Yeah, your father told me you were getting into music. Would you want to have it? Now, in retrospect, it's pretty cool to see how this moment kind of changed my life forever after that. But at the time, my little bratty booty was just like, oh, bass guitar. Like, I guess, cool. I'll take it. But to be honest, I did think the bass, again, at that time, was pretty lame. I was just getting to music. And what I thought the bass was just something that you don't even notice, something you don't even hear. I wasn't really too into a lot of rock music before playing the guitar, and then after getting the guitar, I had a lot of catching up to do. But the music I guess I was listening to, I didn't really have an ear for the bass lines. I didn't really pay attention to the bass lines. So again, I just thought playing the bass was just you're gonna be playing rhythm. You're gonna have a old boring time when you're playing Guitar Hero or Rock Band. No one wanted to play the bass. It was dull. It was boring. It was just a bunch of boom 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 boom. And I just thought, okay, well, there's no cameras on that. I want to play lead guitar. Darn it. So I was still convinced that I was meant to just play guitar, but I was very thankful that I did get a bass guitar, a free bass guitar. I mean, that's pretty wicked. And actually, little fun fact now, that bass guitar that I got was from like 1972. and it is actually worth a pretty penny. I just need to repair a few things on it, but man, like how lucky was I? How lucky am I to have an instrument like that given to me? It was rad. Alrighty, so it's 10th grade, starting 10th grade. I'm trying to be a rock star, and I joined this class called Rock Combo. And the teacher was this teacher named Dr. Tacky. He was awesome. He was so cool. I wasn't too vocal in the class. I don't know if you would remember me now, but he was so passionate about music. He just loved music. He was always talking about music. I don't think at the time I recognized like all the knowledge he had and all the just insight he had, but he really was about music. I wish I can talk to him now and just say thank you. He was a really cool guy. But anyways, he was the teacher of this rock combo. And what rock combo was just a bunch of musicians, high school musicians, who got together and we would play like current songs, or we would play like actual songs. We weren't playing marching band songs or orchestral songs. We were playing like songs that we liked from our favorite bands that we would hear on the radio and whatnot. And guess what? Everyone was playing guitar. There was a lot of guitar players in that class. And so, like I said, I wasn't too vocal when I first started playing music, and people were starting to say, hey, like, you want to play this song? Let's play this song. They were suggesting songs and whatnot. And I wasn't so confident in my music abilities. I kind of just, stayed in the back. But I wasn't getting any playtime. I wasn't getting any songs to play because there was 120,000 guitar players in the class. No, there really wasn't that many, but there was a lot. And again, I just don't think I was confident enough to be like, hey, I actually want to play this song. So that was that. But there was a need for bass players. And they're like, well, we need someone to play bass for this song, and we need someone to play bass for that song. And a lot of the guitar players were just saying, like, okay, like, I guess I'll do it. There was a lot of that, and I was one of them. And I did want to play. And I said, oh, I'll play bass for this song. And I think my first bass line that I learned was a Twisted Sister song. Was actually like, we're not gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. And dun 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 dun. Something like that. I honestly don't remember it too well, but I do remember it being like the first bass line I had to learn. And that is not really the funnest song to play on bass. That is one of those songs that's just very like bum bum. Just very, kind of just chilling through the whole thing. It only kind of perpetuated my ideas of what I thought bass was. I'm like, oh, great. I'm stuck playing this darn Twisted Sister song. I don't even like this song, but I was grateful that I was getting stage time, I guess is what you would call it. So I started learning a lot of songs on bass, only because that was the only way I was able to actually play on stage and to perform. And it was cool. We would perform. Sometimes we'd perform like during lunchtime, or sometimes we'd go and perform like at the park or for like little community events. It was very involving. I'm actually very fortunate to have a class that did involve me in things like that. Then came Christmas time. And Dr. Tacky, I remember him recommending a song. He was like, hey, there's a cool little punk Christmas song by No Doubt called Oi to the World. I think it would be a fun song to play, and you guys should play it. And I said, okay, cool. I guess I'll play bass for this song as well. Before this, we were playing bass lines like, for songs, oh, I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. Again, not the most exciting bass line. And keep in mind, at this time, I'm still kind of in this idea and this mindset that bass is just whatever. I'm just here to make sure I get stage time so people know my name to when I start playing guitar. But then came Oi to the World by No Doubt. Now, if you have not heard that song, I do recommend listening to it. It is so bass forward. It's just all bass. It was all bass. I remember when I first listened to that song, I was amazed. I was so amazed at what the bass guitar was doing. And there was even a bass solo in that song. There was a bass solo in that song. I had never heard a bass solo before. My mind was blown. First of all, I think this was like my first introduction to punk music. I was just amazed by the energy and by the bass line. It was so cool. And it actually went a little something like this. What the heck, right? And the bass solo went something like this. I was blown away. Needless to say, I definitely started developing an ear for bass guitar after that, and developing an appreciation for bass guitar like that. Not every song is going to be bass forward, but even those that have like more subtle bass lines, there is a beauty to the fact that some of these bass players can add an emotion, a groove to even the most simple of bass lines. It was that song that made me realize that bass definitely has a place. Bass has a place. And that's going to be a new shirt or something. Don't steal my idea. I was learning as much as I can on bass, learning all these bass lines, and I had that guitar player ego, but with a bass. It was so cool. I was learning some Blink-182. That is a bass line from a Blink-182 song called Carousel. Blink-182, man, I too had emotions in high school. They're awesome. And then Red Hot Chili Peppers. Ooh, that was a band that definitely changed the way I was playing bass. Their bass player, Flea, he is incredible. And he's just wild. His bass lines are super groovy, super catchy. And he, sometimes in some of his songs, he does this thing called slap bass line or slap bass, which is a technique. It's usually used in like funk and jazz and other sorts of music, but you know, it's not very common, but some bassists will find places to slip that technique in. This here is some slap bass for you. That was the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the song was Can't Stop. And if you were not bobbing your head to that, then I don't even know if we can be friends. Just kidding, you guys are cool the way you are. But also keep in mind, I wasn't slapping bass that well when I first started to learn all these things. That took a lot of practice. Bass slapping is a technique that definitely takes a lot of practice. But that's what I was doing. I was just learning songs, learning techniques, and this was all kind of happening throughout the 10th grade. And it was around this time, a couple things happened. It was around this time that a friend of mine, Jacob, approached me, and he was a senior, and keep in mind I'm in 10th grade. And he approached me and he was like, "Hey, dude, like you play some cool bass. You want to jam with me and my friend Abel?" And Abel was a drummer, Jacob was a guitar player, and both of these guys were a couple years older than me. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool." And I was like, "Yeah, for sure, trying to play it cool." I was like, "Yeah, I'll jam with you guys." So I brought my bass amp over to their house, and we started jamming, and it was so cool. This is the time actually that I got the nickname Scooter. I don't know where it came from. I don't have any weird obsession with scooters, but Abel and Jacob just started calling me Scooter. They said, "Oh yeah, it fits you," and I was like, "Okay, well, cool. I mean, as long as I'm jamming." And we were just making songs, the three of us. They were instrumental songs, and they were pretty cool. I can't actually remember any songs at the top of my head when we were just jamming us three. And then one day Jacob was like, "Oh, hey, I think we should have a singer." And I have a buddy or a friend of a friend or something like that, and he writes music, and his name is Andy. I think he should come in and jam with us. So then comes Andy into our lives, into my life. And, this guy was definitely a debaucherous guy. I remember when we first met him, he had a water bottle with vodka and orange juice. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Keep in mind, I'm still in the 10th grade. Wasn't really exposed to these things before. And I thought, oh man, this is it. This is the rock star. We're living the rock star life. Andy is a wonderful guy in his own way, definitely. I took a lot of parts of his songwriting, the better parts of his songwriting, the better parts of him, and he definitely has an influence in the way I have made music. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, but hey man, if Andy is listening to this, dude, I appreciate you. You're awesome. Thank you. It was music at first sight. And then after that, we started jamming and practicing, and we called ourselves Autumn Bomb. And we were just playing Rage Against the Machine type music, very, fight the man, fight the power. I was in 10th grade, so I didn't really have much experience with the man, but man, was I grooving. I don't remember a lot of the names of the songs, but I do remember some of the bass lines. Here's one of my favorites. Something like that. It's been a while. But that's it. I was in a band and we were playing shows in my hometown, of course, El Centro. And actually, El Centro has a really great music scene. I might actually just dedicate a whole episode to the music scene in El Centro. Again, it's a small town, but man, are people so talented down there. And around that time, there was a lot of ska bands, which is kind of like a fast punk music with a bunch of horns. Like there'll be trumpet players and saxophone players, and it's very fun, dancey kind of music. And then there was a lot of metal bands too, with like some crazy metal names, like Where the Titans Roam. That was a really, really intense name. So it was pretty cool because then I was playing with Autumn Bomb, and we were playing like this really cool, energetic, funky rock type of music. We started playing some local Battle of the Bands. That was very fun too. I got to meet so many different types of people, so many different types of musicians. We were all just there to support each other. It was and it is to this day a very beautiful, loving, accepting scene for the most part. I was listening to a lot more rock music, a lot more punk music. A big band that was very prevalent in my life was this band called Modest Mouse, and they had this song called Dramamine. And another song that I was amazed to find out that the bass was playing what it was playing. It goes like this. It was a very beautiful song. There's a lot of guitar accompaniment with the bass line, but it was so melodic. And I was trying to learn things like that. I was incorporating things like that into my music. I was also introduced to a lot of local bass players, and I would talk to these guys. And there was one bass player in particular. He was in this band called the Ska Mission, and they were so fun to watch. It was so cool. I was amazed. And their bass player, his name is Abraham, but he went by the nickname Pollo. Pollo, like chicken in Spanish. Pollo. And everyone was like, "Oh, if you're trying to be a good bass player, if you want to know what good bass playing is, you got to look at this guy." And man, this guy, Boyle, is amazing on bass. Ska music is a really interesting music to play on bass. It's a very fast doom 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 doom. Very fast all the time. Sorry, I used my mouth bass instead of my real bass there, but oh well. Boyle was killing it on bass. I loved the way he played. He was a hero of mine, and he didn't know me at the time, but I was so into what he was playing. I wanted to be like him. I thought, man, if I can be like Boyle, that's it. I'm the best bass player. So I tried my best to catch up to that. I actually some of it was interest and some of it was ego, but I made it a goal to just become the best bass player in the valley. That is what I wanted to do. And so I was just playing bass, playing bass, and playing bass. Playing bass with Autumn Bomb. I was still playing bass in Rock Combo. I'm now in my 11th grade year, and I take Rock Combo again this time. So I'm playing bass for a band, I'm playing bass for school. I also was part of this Blink-182 / Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band, and that was pretty cool. That brought its own set of experiences as well. I was playing shows with other local bands like Vacation on Mars and Kan, Kan, which another talented band. Vacation on Mars is actually Boyle as well on bass. He was a bass player for that band as well. And little foreshadowing, but all the members of Vacation on Mars later became, my good friends of mine. And Arturo, the lead singer and the guitar player of Vacation on Mars, is actually my roommate now. There's a whole, story about how we got here, but that's when I started associating myself with those kinds of people, with musicians like that, with that type of scene. Now, there is a character that I'd like to introduce to you that I haven't introduced before, but he has been in the background of this story. A good friend of mine, Ian Marcus, and he had, I think I was going to school with him since the second grade, and he was always like, hey, what's up, man? And just, hi, hey, what's up? And we knew of each other, and we would say hi every now and then. Sometimes we would have the same classes and whatnot. And then when we're all getting into music, I think he as well was getting into music. And then when I got my bass, I think he had known I got my bass, or he saw me take it to school or something. And he too was getting into guitar playing, into music playing. He had a guitar, and then he had purchased a bass around the time that I got my bass as well. And he had a bass amp. So I remember, we would talk about bass casually. Oh yeah, that's cool, man, bass amp. And I think we had tried jamming out once or twice. I remember bringing a keyboard, an old raggedy keyboard that I had bought at a swap meet, and it had these super generic drum tracks, and and we would try to jam along, and that was fun. That was always fun, but I was doing a lot as far as music, and then I was also in school, and so I always just kind of had that in the background. I would jam out with Ian sometimes, jam out with my buddy Jerry, but Ian, he's an important character. He will come up later. Alrighty, so with Autumn Bomb, as all great bands rise, sometimes they must fall. I'm just kidding, I'm being dramatic, but, we all kind of had our own lives going in different directions, and Andy wasn't even living in the valley. I think he was living in Riverside or something, which was about 2.5 hours away. That band, Autumn Bomb, it took me a lot of places physically. I remember we played a show in LA, or 2 shows in LA. One of them was at the Whiskey A Go Go, and the other one was at, oh my god, another wonderful venue like that, another iconic venue. And the Whiskey A Go Go is an iconic venue. There's been so many great bands that played there. We opened for some band that I had never even heard of, small shows, but I played there. And I think even the Chili Peppers had played there before, and I was like, oh my god, I'm here. I'm standing in the same stage that Flea once stood on. It was quite the ego rush. It was so cool, and it definitely lended its own, it had its hard times as well. Band is, you're pretty much in a different type of relationship with 3 other people, or how many other people are in your band. You got to make sure you're all on the same page, and that's hard. And it was only for a 1.5 years, but we were all in high school, and we all had our own thoughts about how things should go. It was a very great learning experience. But after, I think, the 11th grade, around the 12th grade now, I'm a senior now, everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and Autumn Bomb kind of sizzled out. It got diffused. But by this time, I'm in it. As far as bass playing goes, I was dedicated. I loved the bass. At this time, I was on a journey to be the very best bass player. I wanted to keep on making music. I would still jam occasionally with the guys from Autumn Bomb, Abel and Jacob. And but I was hungry. I was hungry to play some bass. When I would play with Autumn Bomb, I was always introduced as Scooter. So by this time, it'd be like, oh yeah, dude, that's Scooter. He plays bass. I don't want to say I had a name for myself. It is just my hometown. And again, my hometown is a tiny little place. I always say that if you stomp on the ground in my hometown, you can hear it throughout the whole town. By this time, I was wearing bandanas all the time, every time I performed, just to get my long hair out of my face, and I would get all sweaty and messy. And going back to my hero Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, if you have the privilege of seeing them live, or if you can go on YouTube and look at their live performances, that guy is crazy. That's why they call him Flea, because he's always jumping around, and I wanted to be exactly like that. And so I was super energetic. I remember putting my heart out into all these performances. I remember having the bass over my head on multiple occasions, like I was playing a guitar, like in the movies. The bass was over my head, and I was swinging it around, and I was jumping off of stuff. It was quite the rock star times for me. And I didn't want to stop that just yet. So I was on the market to look for another band. So it's my senior year. I'm actually back in marching band. I had stopped when I started high school in 9th grade. I wanted to focus on guitar playing, but then I was like, hey, let's go back into a marching band. A lot of my friends were there, so I brought out my trumpet, played some marching band. That was really fun. Such a great learning experience. Again, got to read some more music. And then I also joined the jazz band during my senior year, and that too was quite the adventure. I was playing and reading all sorts of different types of music that I'd never really been exposed to. I remember in jazz band there was this one song that I absolutely adored, and it was called Peanut Vendor. It went something like this. It was so groovy. It was very Latin-y, and then the trumpets came in, and the saxophones came in, and then someone was using a shaker, and it was extraordinary. So again, I was playing all sorts of different music, and then I had some sort of American history class with Ian, and then sitting next to Ian was this dude named Alfredo. So Ian and Alfredo, they're my pals, man. And so I knew Ian had played music. We had jammed before. But it turns out Alfredo played the drums. And we're like, dude, what the heck? You play the drums? We've been using this weird keyboard to play drums, man. Let's jam out. And so that's what we were doing during senior year. Me, Ian, and Alfredo would just jam out. Now, this is happening while I am part of the Do Something Club. A lot of community outreach with that. We were just, we would do these little events with the community and with the school, and it was cool. I was just trying to be very involved with more stuff. And we ran into this lady. Her name was Linda, and she had an art gallery in the valley. And she wanted to throw like some sort of little like for the arts type of show. And I said, oh my God, this is extraordinary. And then I said, hey, maybe we can have musicians play too. And she's, oh, that's a great idea. So we had like local artists and local musicians, and I was in charge of the music. I got to pick who was playing. It was super cool. So naturally, I wanted to make sure that I had a spot on there. The thing is, I didn't have a band, but I did jam out with these dudes, with Ian and Alfredo. And so I was like, all right, guys, here's the deal. I'm going to throw a show soon. And if we come up with a good number of songs, maybe we can play on there. Just like a one-time thing, see how it goes. I haven't played on stage in a long time, and it would be fun for all of us to, just jam out and have some fun, play some tunes. And everyone was on board with it, so that's exactly what we did. We learned, I believe, like 5 songs, and we came up with 5 songs. These are all songs that we were playing, and none of us could sing very well, so we just kind of stuck to like instrumentals. Sometimes we would like do the occasional shout. We all loved like punky music, so sometimes we would just yell, blah, 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 and it was super cool. But again, we were mostly just instrument, bass, but we were making these songs. And I was making bass lines. And what's so cool about these guys was that I was able to make bass lines the way I wanted them to. And I think it helped that we didn't have a singer to kind of define like what direction we should go music wise. We can just kind of go crazy and be free. And again, my mission was to be the best bass player. I was making songs that were just ridiculous on bass. I always have this theory. For those of you who had played Guitar Hero, I always, not a theory, but this idea when I make bass lines. When I make bass lines, I wanted them to be fun to play on Guitar Hero. So I always think if my song came out on Guitar Hero 20, I want people to be like, man, I want to play bass because the bass line's so much fun to play on Guitar Hero. So that I always had like that in the back of my head when I was making these songs with the boys. Then come the Do Something show. It's coming up. I looking around. I talked to some friends, and I got some more bands to play. And a good friend of mine, I reached out. His name was Caesar, and he is the drummer. He was the drummer for Vacation on Mars. And I said, yo, Caesar. And he was the only one I kind of talked to from that band. But keep in mind, Boyle, the legendary bass player, is in that band. And my future roommate, Arturo, is in that band. But I only talked to Caesar. And I said, dude, like, let's get your band to play on the show, Vacation on Mars. He's like, well, actually, Vacation on Mars, we're going through some band stuff. We're probably not, be a band for much longer. But we do have another band with just me, Boyle, and Arturo. And we're called Great Days. And I'm like, okay, well, let's get on there. Start playing, let's have a show with Great Days. Me and Ian and Alfredo are going to jam out. Let's all hang out and jam for the show. And he thought that was a cool idea. So we got bands for the show, and I'm going to be playing. I haven't played in a long time. I'm so excited. Tell the boys, hey, we got to come up with a band name sometime. We had that in the back of our mind. And around this time, I had gotten the freshest batch of strawberries that I had ever gotten, that I've ever had in my whole life. So delicious. I remember biting into that strawberry around this time. Trust me, this story has a point. I remember opening my fridge, getting those Costco-sized strawberries, and taking a bite into that strawberry, and thinking, oh my goodness, this strawberry is simply damn delicious. And then I remember thinking, there it is. So I texted the boys and I said, guys, I got it. We shall be known as Simply Damn Delicious. And that was the show. We were going to play with Great Days. It's going to be Simply Damn Delicious and Great Days and some other acoustic performers. It was really cool. Come day of the show, we practiced a lot. We're ready. I remember we also had in mind that we were going to do a cool little punk funk cover of the song I Will Survive. We had these gimmicks kind of all in our head. We were gonna switch instruments during the middle of the set, and we were gonna bring out a cowbell and get the audience involved. Oh, we had planned it. I definitely like being theatrical, so I had all these little things in my head, and we definitely had planned it. Come day of the show, and we rocked it. And I don't mean just my band, but I mean I'm very proud of what we as young kids at that time were able to accomplish. We got this little show together with help, of course, but everyone involved with that show just did such a great job. But that was the birth of Simply Damn Delicious. And I remember after that show, and we played with Great Days as well, and we got to see Great Days play, and oh, they were extraordinary. And I remember after that show, Boyle, the bassist, was like, dude, like, Scooter, that was awesome. That rocked, man. And I was your hero telling you that you're good at the thing that you idolize them for. It is such a great feeling. A little foreshadowing. Actually, Boyle and I are good friends now, and I still admire him, and he is still playing bass to this day, and he is still extraordinary. I ended up moving to San Diego for college, but I would always go down and visit my family and visit my old bandmates, and we would just play shows all the time. We'd play local shows. We're still very active, even when I was in college in 2013, 2014. And then I started getting into other musical projects around up in San Diego. I was jamming with a couple of dudes here and there. But dude said, I never really clicked with the way I did with my members in Simply Damn Delicious, specifically Ian, the guitar player. I think that guy is just cut from the same cloth as far as music goes from me, and we just click. And any bass line I throw at him is, it's like baseball. I throw something at him, and he is always hitting home runs as far as like what he can come up with guitar wise. I to this day I still make music with that guy in 2020, and he has only gotten better, so much better. And he was already good back in 2012. Oh man, he's gonna get famous, man. You guys mark my words. But yeah, my story as far as bass playing and performing kind of sizzles out there. I have my bass with me, and I will every day almost, or maybe every other day, I'll just play some licks on it, you know? And I practice a lot. Now, sometimes I'll find myself on YouTube kind of learning more theory behind everything, learning more techniques, brushing up on stuff. With Simply Damn, I kept on just kind of going crazy making the stuff that I do. I remember we had this, I have a big obsession for snails. I'm a big fan of snails. We had this song called For the Snails. That was one of the first few songs we actually wrote. Kind of went like this. Had some cool little, almost like a little metal undertone to it. Kind of reminded me of a Tool, another cool band that I am into. We had, again, I was into my slap technique, and I wanted to just show off to everybody, so I was always trying to slip in some slap bass on a lot of songs. Stuff like that. We did end up playing a couple shows in San Diego. The drummer, Alfredo, he ended up having to move to LA. We did find another drummer, Alexi, and oh man, this guy is another guy that just grew up with us. He was actually a friend of all of ours, and Alfredo as well. And there was no like weird, hard feelings, I believe. It was just like, oh yeah, Alexi can play the parts, and he ended up playing parts. We ended up making music with Alexi as well. This kid, Alexi, is a machine, like a drum machine. You type in the coordinates, beep boop boop boop, and then he's just he'll do it. He can do anything. It's crazy, and he's very creative. He too has his own. He does his own style of music, but he was jamming with Simply Damn, and it was really fun. It was a really great time. Every once in a while, we'll still perform as a band. But it's only when we all have time. Alexi now is a father, so congratulations to him. Ian's going to school for music, actually. And, again, we all have different schedules. And when we have time to jam, that's when we jam. I personally like to do a lot of recording. Sometimes, I'll put some melodies and some keys. I'll throw some keys and some drum tracks on a recording. And I'll play some bass along to it. The bass is groovy. I like it. I feel like when you play it, you gotta bob your head. At least I know I bob the heck out of my head. And it has a bounce to it. It definitely has a bounce to it. I still love jamming with people, but performing and getting all that stuff together and practicing, it definitely takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment. I still want to be involved with sound and with music. I love that stuff. And so I do think that for me, I really enjoyed kind of making not just the bass line, but the way it all came together and making all that. And I think that's what got me into like the recording aspect of things and recording music. I remember we would try to record our little demos in a garage. I remember doing that kind of stuff with Simply Damn. And that's really what got me interested in just the way sound kind of gets into our ears. And I'm like, man, we can be the person behind that. And so now, that's I'm involved with the radio, and I'm involved with music. I try to record other people's music. I love hearing other people's music. I think everyone has the potential to do something amazing, some better than others, but I do love hearing other people's music, and I've tried to collaborate that way. But the bass will always have my heart. Nowadays, I like to think I'm not so ego-driven when it comes to learning anything on bass. And by that, I mean it's not always about being the loudest or being the fastest. It's about being able to kind of show, again, through your instrument that you are having fun. And that's like a different lesson in itself. That's a lesson I feel like just kind of comes with doing these types of things for just longer times. And I hope that in any time that I play, I portray that I'm having a good time. Okay, sometimes I still like to show off. Alright, guys, thank you so much for listening and for just hanging out with me. I know there was a lot more talking than there was bass playing, but I just try to, maybe add a little bit of spice to this podcast by bringing on the bass. And I'm sure it won't be the last time. Maybe I can just make it a regular thing where I will have my bass with me when I record. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm sure we're going to get to know each other a lot better over the course of this social distancing. If you have any stories about how you got into music or even your favorite hobby, please share them with me. I love to hear that. I think everyone kind of comes into their favorite activities in a special way. I think music didn't wasn't with me when I was born. It was given to me in a way that was memorable. And I'm sure you guys all have things that were introduced to you in a memorable way. So please share that with me. Guys, please stay safe out there and follow us. You can follow Griffin Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I think we're going to have those links in the description. And again, thank you for hanging out with me. I'm going to write off on a song. I've been talking about my music for a long time, and I'm going to write off on a song from Simply Damn Delicious. We recorded this in a garage, so it is far from a big time production. And again, this is in high school. It was still a fun time, and I hope you can groove to it. I know because of some legal issues, we're not really allowed to play actual songs from like a label and whatnot, but I believe this should be fine. This is my own music, and this is just music recorded, in a garage for fun. I think it should be fine. We'll see. But for now, enjoy the song. The song is called Common Sense. It's just us kind of yelling, saying it's all common sense. I don't know what that means. It means something different to everybody. And I hope that you enjoy it. Once again, I'm Izz, and this was The Social Distance.